how do you build value into your business? That's one thing that I see very little of, because the business isn't you. The idea is you leave the business. I mean, you might be there for a while for handover, but you leave the business. So the value can't be you.
That's right.
If it's you, the value is zero.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Because nobody can monetize you because you walk away.
Absolutely. I still remember when the business was just me, and I think about that moment where if I wanted to sell that business, it wouldn't have been worth anything because it was just me. And then one day I just me and my wife, we took a holiday, took a month holiday, and the business just couldn't run by itself without me. And that's when I realised, geez, you need to actually build out the systems in place to ensure that it could run without you. And that's when things were starting to, the cogs were turning in my head during the holidays. And I wasn't really on holidays anymore at that point because I was thinking, okay, how am I going to build this? I was thinking about the mechanics of the business, of what's involved, how to build out each particular part of the business. And that was fascinating. That's when you get the reinvigorated growth, like that energy back into wanting to be back in the business, because there's times where you're just slaving away and you just don't want to do it because the business is just you. And it took that holiday, and I remember writing down in a journal just each part of the business, the major pieces of the business, and starting, okay, what do I need to do? And you could see for a whole year, I systematized the whole business and just writing SOPs. There was no ChatGPT at the time, no nothing. It's just everything was on Google Sheets and whatnot. And you're just writing out, okay, this is what we'll do. It's how I do it. And then eventually you get your next employee or your VA to write out, improve those procedures, and this is what you would do differently. This is how you'd improve it. And it took actually quite a fair amount of time to turn that business into an asset.
How long do you think?
I reckon it took a good 6 years. Trying to, it seems easy on paper. You think, okay, this is what you need to do. You write it out, you hash it all out, and you go, this is what the business should look like. But when you start executing on it, there's all these other problems. And you're just like one after another. But that's what a business is, right? It's trying to solve problems along the way. And like people say, you're building a boat as you go, and that's what it feels like. No better way to describe it. And there's always going to be holes in your boat. You got to try patch it up along the way, and you got to identify them. You got to be quite aware. I'm going to say like awareness is probably one of the biggest things. And one of the habits that I've developed over the past few years is just sitting down every one day a week, and I just think about, okay, what is the business doing? What do I need to do? What are each of the 5 things I need to do each day to get it to where I want it to be?
So another thing to be aware of in this is, while you're still operating the business, that new person is going to suck your time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I'm going to hire Alan. Everything's going to be great. I'm going to have more time. No, I'm afraid not, my dear friend. You're going to have less time.
Yep.
And unless you're willing to put the time and energy in, Alan's not going to get where you need Alan to be.
That's right.
In a hell of a hurry. Alan might be awesome and work it out for himself.
Yep.
But you're going to be disgruntled because the number of mistakes are going to be higher.
Yep.
And along the way, you lose the opportunity to build the processes around what you're discovering Alan is suffering from.
Yep.
Like, Alan didn't know we did it like this, and the reason is da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, crap, didn't realise that. So I did what I used to do in inventory and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Now, as a business owner, I can build a process around that. Yep. Because what if Alan leaves tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right? That happens too.
That happens,
Alan is a gun, and he brought all this knowledge, and it's cool, and we're building this process because I didn't know that either. Alan didn't know this bit, but now I can build this guardrail.
Yep.
But I thought, Alan's awesome, he'll look after it, which he did, and then 6 months down the track, one of the big suppliers offered him 3 times as much because they can afford it. Alan is awesome. So Alan left.
Yep.
Haven't learnt from Alan except what he told me and what I saw.
That's
There are no new processes in place. I've got to start again.
Absolutely. You nailed it on the head, Hanif. You know, and so many people revert back to going back to their own old ways, doing it themselves. You carry that stress. But hey, each time, you know, when you do something new, it's okay. You try and articulate your thoughts of how you did things into a process. It may not be perfect. That's fine. And it'll be 80% right. And then you train that person, and that person's going to add in, you know, their mistakes and what they did, and you continue build out this, you know, SOP. And I think if you plan to sell, I think you have to really start thinking about the points that can break your business, and you've got to make that. You've got to start identifying how you're going to put people in place so it's not dependent on you. And I think that's a longer term vision. Like if it doesn't just say, you don't just say, I'm going to sell my business tomorrow, that you can just sell your business. Like the whole process, it uncovered a lot of things, even a lot of holes in the business that you think you've built systems for. And there's plenty of other things that you still need to rectify. But if you just start that process of thinking, okay, how am I gonna like, you know, put together systems and procedures in place for certain tasks, so it's not about you, then that's how you start building a sellable business. Been a couple of years in the making, you know, redesigning the business, rejigging the way things are done, so that it doesn't just, I'm not the breaking point. You know, I think back to, you know, all the decisions that I make. Yeah, hiring people, but if they left, can the next person take on that role? And that part has been a game changer for me, and realizing that I could hire anyone. They should be able to read and understand the procedures, and going, okay, I can do that. And that's what keeps the business going. And it never ends. There's always more. But you as a business owner, you start planning for it. If you plan to exit, okay, what would the exit look like? And here we are. You know, after a good 10 years in that journey, you realise, wow, you've turned this into quite a little behemoth.
But it is constant effort, isn't it?
It is.
And
Yep.
it's not set and forget.